Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my college football top 25 for week 8. Before I continue, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. Really try and grow the channel, so go ahead and do that. I was going to come on and do a recap of that Kentucky-Georgia game after the game was concluded, but I had something to do right after the game that popped up during the second half of that game, so I couldn't get around to that, so that's why there was no recaps or no live streams yesterday, so my apologies. But I'm going to go over the top 25, go over my thoughts of week 7 mostly throughout this video. A lot of news to unpack, from number 2 losing, from what's going down at LSU, and we're going to get into that throughout this video. So let's get into it. We'll kick it off with 25, and then we'll count down to 1, and then I'll talk about the teams that were in the pool last week but got dropped out. So at number 25, I have Pitt. Now 24 and 25 were tough, I'll admit. And I'll explain that more on the teams that are left out of how I determined it. Number 25, Pitt. The 5-1, the 1 losses to Western Michigan, which I believe is the best team in the MAC. Pitt has a big game against Clemson coming up on Friday night. If they can win that game, that's huge for them. So we'll see what happens. They beat Virginia Tech. They beat Georgia Tech. I'm trying to think who else they beat. They haven't played North Carolina yet. They get them at home as well later on in the seasons. But Pitt looks like the best team in the ACC Coastal from everything I've seen so far this season. So number 25 Pitt, number 24 is Air Force. The Air Force is 6-1 people, and they are going to take part in the only top 25 matchup this upcoming week in week 8. Week 8. The schedule is kind of weak, having a bit of trouble there pronouncing words, but week 8, Air Force is the only where let me reword that some. Air Force and San Diego State are taking part of the only top 25 matchup. I'll get into San Diego State in a second. Air Force number 24. You look at Air Force of 6-1. The 1 loss is on the road to Utah State. A good Utah State team, 4-2. They're not bad. 49-45. They beat Boise State this past weekend. Boise State is not coming out of the Mountain West this year. I can tell you that. It's going to be Air Force, San Diego State, or Nevada. And I think they come out of the Mountain Division there in the Mountain West, and possibly a preview of the Mountain West Championship game this upcoming week against San Diego State. We'll get into that here in a second when I talk about San Diego State. But Air Force number 24, number 23, NC State. Big win against Boston College there. That was probably the game between Boston College and NC State. Whoever won that game was probably have a good shot of winning the ACC Coastal. Whoever lost that game isn't. NC State, they beat Clemson and they beat Boston College. The only team they haven't played yet is Wake Forest. More on Wake Forest in a second. But NC State, 1 loss. The 1 loss is to Mississippi State. Probably the best season NC State's going to have in a while. So, number 23, NC State. Number 22, Auburn. Impressive win on the road against Arkansas. Very impressive. I said last week the only reason Arkansas got dropped out after losing Georgia is because I needed to put someone in named Texas A&M that beat Bama, and Auburn was the team that got dropped out. Very impressive win on the road against Arkansas. They still have Alabama on the schedule. We'll see what happens there. But overall, you look at Auburn. Very impressive team. They still have Texas A&M on the schedule as well, I believe. So we'll see what happens, but definitely better than what I thought they're going to be this year. Number 21, SMU. They had a bye week this past week, but they're undefeated. They're probably the biggest threat to Cincinnati at this point. So number 21, SMU. Now to the top 20, number 20, Baylor. Big win against BYU. That was a top 25 matchup. Baylor went ahead, beat them 38-24. Just overall looked like the better team. They were 25 last week in the poll. They got moved up to number 20. Number 19, San Diego State. Kind of talked about them a little bit before. They are the best team in the Mountain West, in my opinion. They're undefeated. They have wins against Utah. They beat be another Power 5, I believe. I forget who, but I believe they'd be another Power 5 somewhere in there. San Diego State, best team in the Mountain West. They have a matchup against the second best team in the Mountain West, and Air Force. That's your only top 25 matchup of the week. 19 San Diego State on the road against number 24 Air Force. Number 18, Texas A&M. A good job by them not going to Missouri sleepwalking. They immediately got up early, 14-0, and then didn't really look back after that. 35-14 against Missouri on the road. So good job by Texas A&M for not sleepwalking in that game. They still have Auburn. They still have Ole Miss. They still have LSU. More on them in a second. So we'll see what happens. They have South Carolina this week. I believe that's going to be a win for Texas A&M from everything I'm seeing from South Carolina. But number 18 Texas A&M, number 17 Kentucky. I moved them down 2 spots. They were 15 last week. I moved them down 2 spots. Give Kentucky credit. I mean, and let's be real, that was kind of bush league at the end what Kentucky did to call a timeout so they could score a feel-good touchdown. But it helped me out because I took Kentucky plus 21.5, and they covered because of that. So good job by Kentucky. But overall, it was Bush League. Kentucky, I think, still has a shot to go 11-1. They beat Florida already. They have Tennessee on the schedule. I think Tennessee. I'll talk about them here in a second, but Tennessee, I think, is capable of beating them. You just look around the other games on the schedule. Maybe Louisville, but outside of that, I think Kentucky could go 11-1. I don't know if I would sit here and say they'll go 11-1. If I had to guess, they'll lose at least one other game. But Kentucky, I moved them down 2 spots, number 17. Number 16 is Wake Forest. They play Army this upcoming week. Wake Forest, they had a bye this week. Wake Forest is a really good team. They're a really good team. They're probably the best team in the ACC as of right now. They're the only team undefeated in the ACC. We'll see what happens down this road, but Wake Forest, number 16. Now the top 15. Number 15, UTSA. Dominant win over Rice, 45-3. I want to say they have Louisiana Tech coming up. That's going to be a tough game for them. Louisiana Tech's one of the better teams in the Conference USA. But you look at UTSA, possibly UTEP might be the opponent. Like think about that: UTSA, UTEP, UAB's on the schedule as well. They still have the Conference USA championship, but UTSA looks like the best team in the Conference USA. And we'll see what happens. UTSA, number 15. Number 14, Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina is in my opinion, is the best team in the Sun Belt. You look at who they have to face down the road. Some teams in the East Division, Sun Belt might go ahead, give them a run for their money, but at the end of the day, Louisiana and the Sun Belt Championship is probably going to be the only real opponent they face. Don't forget about Appalachian State as well. I think they'll give them at least a competitive game. But Coastal Carolina looks like, to me, they're a top 15 team. I don't know if they're necessarily a top 10 team, but number 14, Coastal Carolina. Number 13, Michigan State. I moved Coastal Carolina and Michigan State down because of their resumes. Michigan State, in my opinion, I think their resume is just not that good. I really don't think it's that good. Um, they went ahead. They survived against Indiana, 20-15. I wasn't overly impressed with that game. With that performance, they still have Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan all in their schedule. I do think they're gonna go 0-3 in those 3 games. I just do. Um, but they're 7-0. I just don't think their resume is that good. Who's their best win on the resume? It's either Miami, it's either Rutgers or Indiana. Maybe Northwestern. Northwestern got a win against Rutgers. Rutgers came back down to earth, but you look at maybe Nebraska, but you look at Michigan State. I'm just not that sold on that resume. I'm not really that sold on Michigan State as a whole. I think they're losing at least all 3 of those games at minimum. Might lose another. At this point, they have 5 games left, but I think at a minimum they're going to lose those 3 games. Number 13, Michigan State. Number 12, Oklahoma State. We got to stop sleeping on Oklahoma State. Big win on the road against Texas. They have a big game this week on the road against Iowa State. If they could beat Iowa State, I mean, you look at that schedule. If they get to just take care of business, and that's kind of tough to say about Oklahoma State because they've been known to slip up against somebody every year. They could be 11-0 facing Oklahoma in the final week of the season. So we'll see what happens. But if that was my guess, I think they probably lose at least a game or two. But Oklahoma State, number 12, gotta give credit to them. Really gotta give credit to them. They look like the second best team in the Big 12. And they already beat Baylor as well. Number 11, Ole Miss. Went on the road, survived against Tennessee. Let me just say this real quick about that game. The Tennessee fans throwing things on the field it's just a bad look. It really is. They shouldn't be doing that. But Lane Kiffin, he's just going to egg them on and enjoy it. Number 11, Ole Miss. I mean, they look like a top 15 team. They really do. They have LSU this upcoming week. More on LSU in a second. But Ole Miss, we'll see what happens. They lost to Alabama. We'll see what they do against Texas A&M. They beat Arkansas. We'll see what they do against Auburn. But overall, I think Ole Miss, you gotta say they're a top 15 team. I'm picking them at number 11 as of right now. Okay, top 10. Number 10 is Notre Dame. Notre Dame, they didn't play this past week. They have USC at home this upcoming week. You look at Notre Dame. I think number 10 is perfect for them because that's why I think they are. I think they're a top 10-ish team. So I put them at number 10. I expect them to beat Southern Cal this week. Southern Cal's a dumpster fire. But number 10, Notre Dame. Number 9, Penn State. They didn't play this week either. They still have the big 3, Ohio State, Michigan State, and Michigan. I think they at least beat Michigan State out of those 3. We'll see what happens. Luckily, I believe they play Rutgers this upcoming week, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure on that. But Penn State, number 9, I do think that they are a top 10 team. Number 8, Iowa. And I wanted to move Iowa back more after that embarrassing performance against Purdue. And give Purdue credit, they're not in this top 25. And I'll talk about why they're not in this top 25. But Iowa, number 8, that was embarrassing against Purdue. It really was. There's no excuse for losing at home 24-7 against Purdue like that. We'll see what happens. As I said, every game Iowa's going to be favored in. They have Wisconsin on the road. That might be a tricky game as well. But I did not see this coming. It would not surprise me because we picked the game. I picked Iowa minus 11 to win by 15. It wouldn't surprise me if Purdue maybe only lost this game by a touchdown, 10 points. But to win the game like that, yeah, that's not good if you're Iowa. I mean, I still put Iowa at 8 because I mean, you look at the resume, they blew out everybody else and beat Penn State, which is a top 10 team in my opinion. But Iowa, I mean, that was not good if you're Iowa. That might keep Iowa might go 12-1, win the Big 10. Would that keep them out if there was a bunch of one-loss teams? We'll see. Number 7 is Oregon. Very underwhelming win against Cal. Cal's a horrible team. Justin Wilcox will be out of a job by the end of the year. Oregon, just not impressive. Just really not. You still have some games in the Pac-12. We'll see what happens there. But I think at this point, something's going to probably have to bounce Oregon's way. The Pac-12 as a whole, this is the only Pac-12 team I have ranked in the top 25, which tells you that the Pac-12 as a whole is just really not that good. We'll see what happens with Utah and Arizona State, but Oregon, number 7, I think they're gonna need a few bounces to go their way if they want to get into the playoffs. Number 6 is Michigan. As I said, Michigan, they have not played Ohio State, Michigan State, and Penn State yet. I think they do beat Michigan State. Michigan, they have Northwestern this upcoming week. They have a bye this week. this past week. Michigan, they are a top 10 team, and you look at their whole resume. It's pretty impressive. It really is how they went on the road and beat Nebraska. They went ahead and beat Washington pretty easily in the non-conference. So they beat Rutgers. They went ahead and took care of business against Indiana. So we'll see what happens. Michigan, number 6. Oh yeah, and they also beat Wisconsin as well. So Michigan, number 6. Now the top 5. Number 5 is Alabama. It is exactly what I thought they were going to do against Mississippi State. Some people were considering taking Mississippi State plus 18, or I believe we took it Alabama minus 17.5, but I believe it jumped up to 18. Guys, I knew this was coming. Mississippi State was catching Alabama at the worst possible time. I watched the game uh, on my phone. I mean, get Mississippi State. They tried at least hanging around in this, but Alabama was too much. I think the final was 49-9, if I'm not mistaken. Alabama. They had a little bump in the road. They get Tennessee this upcoming week. We'll see what happens. But number 5, Alabama. They moved up 2 spots. Number 4, Ohio State. I still think Ohio State's a top 5 team. I do. I don't know necessarily how they're going to fare against Michigan State, Penn State, and Michigan. I do think that they will go ahead and probably beat Michigan State. The Penn State game, if Sean Clifford isn't playing, which I don't know the stats on that, I gotta look into that. I do think that Ohio State would beat them, but that Michigan game is probably the last circle game in their schedule. Look at Ohio State. Defensively, there's question marks. Offensively, I actually do think there's question marks, but they're finding ways to win games. They're 1 losses to number 7 Oregon on neutral field right now. I would pick Ohio State to beat Oregon, and give Oregon credit for winning that game on the road against Ohio State. But Ohio State, number 4. Number 3, Cincinnati. Cincinnati blew out UC at 56-21. They're going to continue blowing out everybody. The only teams in the American that's probably going to give them some trouble is SMU and Houston, and I don't think Houston really would because I just don't trust them. But Cincinnati, I mean, what can I say about them? And the AP, I did look at the AP before I filmed this. I already had the top 25 and I already had the setup of the video all set up and everything, and knew what I wanted to say about each team. But I looked at the AP. Cincinnati's ranked number 2 in the AP. So I think eventually maybe they drop a spot or two because some of these Power Fives are gonna be playing each other, particularly in the Big Ten. But Cincinnati, number 3 in the country, in my opinion. I think they're the 3rd best team in the country. Number 2 is Oklahoma. In my opinion, I think Oklahoma with Caleb Williams is the 2nd best team in the country. I don't even think it's close. I think Oklahoma is a different team with Caleb Williams. I think Oklahoma is a better team with Caleb Williams. They're undefeated. As I said, they still have Iowa State and Oklahoma State on the schedule. We'll see what happens in those 2 games. But Oklahoma, they look like the 2nd best team in the country with Caleb Williams playing at quarterback. And Caleb Williams, if you don't remember, he was from Washington, D.C., Maryland area. I wanted my Terps to get him. We were in his final top 5 list, but he elected to pick Oklahoma over, I think, Maryland and LSU were the other 2. I know Maryland was one of the final schools. But overall, he showed against TCU in the second half against Texas why I wanted him at Maryland. So number 2, Oklahoma, and then number 1 is Georgia. I mean, what can I say about Georgia? Absolutely, just dominated Kentucky from start to finish, and give Kentucky a credit in that game. They got to 14-7. They were, I believe it was 14-7 at halftime. They were very competitive with them, but at the end of the day, Georgia's depth, especially the 2nd and 3rd strings, is just much better than Kentucky's. Kentucky probably doesn't even have much of a 3rd string, if you want my honest opinion. You just look at Georgia. They're the clear number 1 favorites to win the championship. They're the best team in the country, and it's not even close. That defense is unreal. Can't say enough great things about Georgia. Number 1, Georgia. So that's the top 25. Now the teams that I left out. We'll start off with Arizona State. And listen, Arizona State, I thought about keeping them in, but then I was like, I gotta pick Utah ahead of them. And then I was like, I gotta pick BYU ahead of Utah and Arizona State. And BYU is getting kicked out of the top 25 and up to 21. So I did end up just kicking out Arizona State. But in my opinion, BYU, Arizona State, and Utah, or let me say BYU, Utah, and Arizona State in that order. All three of those teams are in the top 30. So Arizona State, not I mean, kind of got let the game get away from them a little bit. I was able to watch this game in entirety. Um, you look at Utah. They are a good team. Utah, they really are. I said it did not surprise me that Utah won that game. We picked Utah to win that game. That's how +1 at home. But Utah, in my opinion, uh, they control their own destiny. Arizona State controls their own destiny because I think each of these teams are probably at least losing one other game this season. But we'll see what happens. It's a two-team race in the Pac-12 South. We'll see with UCLA as well. Arizona State already has a tiebreaker over them. We'll see about the Utah UCLA game. But Arizona State dropped them out. Florida, what an embarrassing loss on the road against LSU. You were 10.5 point favorites. You lost that game. What an embarrassing loss, giving up 49. The running back Price for LSU ran all over Florida. If you're Todd Grantham, the defensive coordinator, I don't know how you still have a job after that. I really don't. I know Florida fans wanted him gone. I'm going to talk about LSU now and what happened today. If you haven't heard, LSU, well, probably yesterday because you're not going to see this till Monday at 9 a.m. But yesterday, LSU and Ed Orgeron, Coach O, have agreed for a separation. Co-word for Coach O is not coming back after this season, but he's going to coach the remainder of the season. I don't know how that affects LSU overall. If for betting purposes, I'm probably just gonna take the team whoever's playing against LSU. Starting this week when I picked the Ole Miss LSU game. You look at LSU. The coach I think they're gonna hire is Billy Napier at Louisiana. I know people are saying big names. Um, all these big names like James Franklin, which I don't fit. I just can't see James Franklin going down to LSU. I think he's either going to stay at Penn State or go to Southern Cal. People are saying maybe Jimbo Fisher. Does he leave Texas A&M? We'll see. Lane Kiffin's a name getting thrown around. I mean, he might leave Ole Miss. I don't know necessarily if he would or not. He has done it before. Lane Kiffin after one season. This will be after 2 seasons there at Ole Miss. But I don't know who's gonna get the job. If I had a guess, it'll be Billy Napier, coach of Louisiana. Maybe Jamie Cadwell at Coastal Carolina might be another name tossed around as well. I don't see Luke Fickell taking this job. I think he either wants the Ohio State job or maybe the Iowa job once Kirk Ferentz leaves. But overall, it was surprising after a win, after a big win like that, because that was a big win for Coach O. That was a big confidence booster for LSU there at home, pulling off that upset, which we predicted here correctly on McDee Sports 4. We predicted LSU to pull off the upset there, and that did happen. Um, that was I was surprised to see that today. I thought maybe after the next loss, but yeah, number 17 Florida had dropped him out, and this should be a warning to Dan Mullen. It really should, because if Coach O could get fired after being number 20 Florida at home as an upset, and Dan Mullen is also 4-3, and he's gonna be 4-4. They have a bye this week, and they have Georgia. He's gonna be 4-4. This should be a warning to him as well that he might be on the hot seat as well. Number 19 Arkansas. I had to drop Arkansas. Um, Lost by 15 at home against Auburn. Arkansas, in my opinion, I still think they're a top 25-ish team. It would not surprise me if they're back in the pool at some point. But it was a great start to the season. But the SEC is just tough. I mean, it just is. I still thought that this team was at least 2 years out from really being good. And listen, they did have some nice surprises, being Texas A&M. They went ahead and blew out Texas. Which, by the way, that win does not look necessarily impressive. Maybe in blowout fashion it does, like they did, but Texas, they have 3 losses on the schedule as well, just like Arkansas does. But you lost to Georgia on the road, 37-0. You went ahead, you lost to Ole Miss, 53-52, and a thrower just couldn't get the 2-point conversion in. And now you lost to Auburn in convincing fashion. So I had to drop you guys out. And then I kind of foreshadowed this earlier. BYU number 21, I dropped them out. BYU Dropped them out at 21. They lost. I almost kept them in at 24 and 25. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm up at 24 and 25 on the poll this week was really tough to figure out. I went with Air Force because I do think that with at 6-1, they beat Boise State. The one loss was on the road to Utah State. They went ahead. They beat Wyoming. Wyoming was undefeated at the time, so I thought that they were the best team in the Mountain Division. They were 6-1, and I just put them there. So I put them at 24. 25 was tough. I considered a lot of teams. I considered Pitt if you end up in that spot. I went ahead. I considered Utah. I considered keeping BYU at 25. I went ahead. I considered UTEP. I considered Louisiana, Western Michigan. Iowa State is a team that I consider as well. But at the end of the day, I went with Pitt because they were the one loss team and they were a Power 5 team, which I know that doesn't sound right. That's not the right thing to do necessarily, but I went with Pitt because they were the only one loss Power 5 team that I considered. But yeah, that's the top 25. Comment down below. Tell me what you think. Tell me your top 25. One top 25 matchup this week, and number 19 San Diego State going on the road against number 24 Air Force, and a possible preview of a Mountain West championship. We'll see what happens in that game. But thanks for watching the video. Hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to your channel. Really appreciate if you do that. This is McD the Beast signing off.